one by Rosa Corey. You can look up the Rosa Corey interview on this website here, and you can get that book on Amazon. So backup stream is now going, so let's begin the broadcast, shall we? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist. And my very special guest is Cyrus A. Parsa from the AI organization. Cyrus, welcome.
Hello, and hello to your audience.
Can you please tell us a little bit about the AI organization, who you are, and what it is you do?
Sure. We research and investigate threats as it pertains to artificial intelligence, 5G, robotics, and biometrics and quantum, specifically concentrate on big tech and China. I myself, I have a BS and a master's in Homeland Security, and I investigate over 1,000 companies dealing with artificial intelligence before I published AI Trump China and a weaponization of robotics with 5G. And subsequently, I published Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity, which goes over Huawei, about 50 companies. And I wrote about the bioweapon coming from China before it happened inside my book, that this threat existed, that they were building, mixing humans and animals to create a virus and using artificial intelligence, and how once it's spawned, it would lead to an AI 5G global takeover, lead to chaos, conflicts, and even extinction of a lot of people in stages with famines and conflicts. So that was actually all in this book, published October 20th, 2019. And we had a last-ditch effort. I used PR Newswire to send information to all the senators, Congress people, and all the world's media that the world was in danger coming from China. And I put that also in this book on August 24, 2019. And they pulled it, saying that my books were slanders to China, Huawei, and our big tech companies. And thus, everyone is sitting at home today because not only I was censored in my company, but our findings, which were way beyond what CIA or FBI or Secret Service had.
Can you explain that a little bit? I mean, for those who might be unaware, you look at these things and people go, oh, they must be stupid. Oh, they must have made a mistake. I'm past all that now. I know that it's intentional. Can you explain that?
On the Chinese part, it's intentional. So the Chinese Communist Party, as I put in these books and the threat assessments I gave to the Secret Service in 2019 in the spring, that they wanted to dominate the world, that they wanted to unleash a bioweapon through microbiologic terrorism, is a term I coined. And then later on, they would roll out the AI and the 5G system as it connects to our big tech companies to control them, thus controlling the whole world. Nobody in the world came up with an analysis, and I did in our company. And it's the Chinese Communist Party, it's the CCP. They've embedded themselves not only in America, but I was in New Zealand in 2007. I was shocked how many of military generals that have had dirty hands in concentration camps in China that have tracked, hunted, and put in quarantine the found off of practitioner meditators, the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, and Christians, and so on. And they're living in New Zealand. And I was shocked even more to see that they were embedding the scientists with the Confucius Institutes and even in your politicians all over New Zealand and Australia. So I came back and I wrote about that. And the university I was with in 2007, they called us slanderous. So
well, it's all very well to call something slanderous, but if they're not willing to back it up with a lawsuit.
Oh, you mean my lawsuit that I put forth, right?
Yeah, I mean, they said that you slandered them, but they never sued you, and that to my mind is somebody who's just trying to destroy your name without any of the details actually getting out about what they're actually doing.
Well, think about it. All those media companies that censored our company and my findings, my books, and all those other people that plagiarized it from everywhere. They couldn't solve it. And everyone's sitting at home because of not only the censorship that I received, but also plagiarism. And everyone's suffering because of that. Nobody in the world had what we had. And it could have been prevented, it could have been altered. Now we're in a difficult situation, and the Chinese Communist Party, as I said when I came out to the public, is August 24th, 2019, with this publication, AI, Trump, China, and the weaponization robotics of 5G, that China threatens all the citizens. The Communist Party does, and they do. And I just put out an article. If you go on my Twitter page, I don't know if you're able to do that.
This one here, the Huawei AI, China plans to rule BRI?
That's an old one, done October 20th, 2019. But yes, that shows you what Huawei is used for. So Huawei is not for human beings, made for machines. So it mobilizes robots, drones, microbots on the One Belt, One Road, linking Australia, New Zealand to the Middle East, to Europe, to Africa, and having this Chinese technocratic system on a communist system control all your families with an AI digital brain. That was our discovery. That was my discovery, in fact. I just put out a tweet, an article. If you can go on my Twitter, it shows, I think it's called AI God. So yeah, if you go to hit the Twitter button, you'll get there. So.
Oh, oops! Error 404 when we're opening the Twitter link. That's not good.
Maybe something happened. We had a hack 2 days ago, but it didn't really go through. It's Cyrus A Parsa 1. If you have Twitter.
One moment, please.
Yes.
It's going to take me a little bit to get this. All right, so twitter.com/ What was it?
At Cyrus, the letter A,
yeah.
Parsa, the number 1.
Oh, number 1.
Yes.
There we go. Cyrus A Parsa 1. This is the one here. Cyrus A Parsa, the AI organization.
The pin tweet is the lawsuit update. But if you go down, you'll see have a video showing. It's called AI God. How China, keep on going down, how China stole from Google DeepMind a planetary surveillance system for their military. You go a few down, you'll see it's a big visual, actually. I think it was done 2 days ago. That's the article. That's the article, but there's a video of it as well. If you go a couple more down, there's a video of it. 2 more down. There you go. Yeah.
The goal would be to have total control of your families and your thoughts on this 5G system with facial recognition.
One second. I'm just going to pause this. The audience can hear this, but you and I can't. Did you want to play that video for them, or just give them the link?
Up to you. Up to you. It's 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, let's just play that link then, shall we? Pop that onto YouTube.
That's 5 minutes. The 2 minutes is on Twitter.
Okay. That's 5 minutes. The 2 minutes on Twitter.
That's 5 minutes. 2 minutes on Twitter. Yeah.
Okay. Where's this one? Here we are.
Would be able to basically extract the way you think and even control the way you think on this godlike system. Imagine God that is all-knowing. Well, this is what they're attempting to build. Not just the Chinese Communist Party, but even DeepMind, Google DeepMind. They've been attempting to do this, and I've said in so many interviews going back to past year, they've extracted the way your brain is formed, the way your neurons connect. And it's not just, I apologize, it's not just Google, but it's almost every tech company through patents that they do this. And a lot of it is not even knowingly. They're not knowingly do this. It's just a process, almost like a colonized herd process that is bringing this to the mother system. So I would like everyone to think about the concept of not God, but a machine-like God that controls or enslaves every human on the planet. And imagine this in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. And if it's not the Chinese Communist Party doing this, once it becomes a godlike AI entity or a superintelligence, it dominates the entire planet and every person on it. This planetary system, this Google AI planetary system from DeepMind, has actually been copied by the Chinese Communist Party, and they're linking it with multiple different of their big tech companies. I'll get more deep in this in the future episodes. For now, please share this video and look at the book again. You can get it off Amazon. You can download it off the AI Organization website.
Okay, so the concept here that we're actually dealing with is a real credible threat, basically to all forms of life, particularly those who want to be religious, because this will create a literal physical existence, an omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent God. Like literally, we're creating our own God here, and it's going to be used to enslave us. Is that essentially the discovery that you've made here? And China's got charge of this system.
Yes, correct. So Google was looking to do it. In a sense, they call it artificial superintelligence, AI. But I like to say it'd be godlike or a God system. So, and China's working on it. And so not just with the digital system, but mobilizing machines and using it for the military, the PLA, for military apparatus and so on. So that this makes it a planetary system. So it's not just something that's on the ground, but it incorporates the sky as well.
That's the New World Order in a T, isn't it? Now the United Nations is going to be centered in China, and if all the AI supergrids are there as well. Just watched an episode of Australian 60 Minutes talking about the expansion of China into the Pacific, using debt to basically get strategic assets off of small Pacific Island nations. So essentially it's going to be a China-controlled world, according to one analyst in Melbourne there, who was born in China.
Oh, I don't think it will be as long as people support the Trump administration and they expose the Chinese Communist Party for the crimes against humanity, because Chinese, most of them don't like their government. It's a communist system that's very brutal, put many people in camps, and have killed many people for their organs. So what the world needs to do is stop being fooled by the Chinese government, because any Chinese person living in your country, no matter who they are, if they link back to China in any way, or the corporations, that means they're under influence or control. Simple as that. Thus, your country, New Zealand, everywhere, they need to cut off all ties with China. Not just because your country is threatened, but your citizens and your government is in violation of many international and national laws. One is the Complicity clause. If you're doing business with any country that has companies that interlink, or that government itself interlinks with concentration camps, torture, organ harvesting, and if you're doing business with them, that makes you not only complicit to crimes against humanity and and also an accomplice. So people in the future can be charged with crimes against humanity in local tribunals and governmental tribunals. So thus, any company doing any business with China is a huge risk. And you saw the virus hitting everybody, right? So some people say it's fake. Some people say it's real. It's definitely real. I don't believe in the draconian measures to lock everybody up and force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. That being said, if you believe it's real and as potent as it is, then you can say, well, why were we complicit in these concentration camps? Why would we do business with China? If you don't believe in it's real and it's bogus, well, the cause and effect is really as some genius person would say, a natural progression. So either way, it's complicit.
Yeah, precisely, and that's what I was just writing down there to illustrate to people, is that this isn't just one thing out of two things, out of three things, or whatever. It's just step-by-step process. And when I talk about natural progression, I talk about, the Zika virus, the swine flu, the bird flu, and all of these other various kinds of, quote-unquote global pandemics. And when you've been looking at these kind of things, the sense behind them and those outbreaks, it seemed suspicious at the time, and then another suspicious outbreak happens, and then what is the solution that is proposed every single time? Lock people down, give them forced vaccines, don't give them any medical rates or something like that. But they needed virus after virus after virus after virus to be publicized in the media over a decade in order to get the public's defenses against this kind of tyranny down. That was just little by little, they say, that if you push the envelope and then people push it back, just continue pushing it until eventually you get what you want. That's what the patience and long-term planning, I think, has paid off. This COVID-19 is the culmination of all of these pandemics and things of that nature for the last decade plus.
I would agree with that. So it's a chain reaction or cause and effect. Why would we do any business with a country that their ethics is worse than an animal from the jungle? It's true. Look at what they do to their dogs. You're buying made in China leather. Do you think that's just cow leather? A lot of times it's dogs that were skinned alive. And you're using that. Or the goods that you're buying, someone built it, made it because they were in a camp, or even they were killed afterwards. So think about it. Everybody's doing trade. If your neighbor is getting raped and the organ harvested, and you know about it, and then you're doing business with your other neighbor that is going in there, is raping them, what does that make you?
An accomplice.
An accomplice. So if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, is sort of like, I'm not saying I agree with this, but from a Buddhist perspective, it's a cause and a karmic. From a Christian perspective, it's you probably say everyone should repent. From a scientific perspective or a Greek classical logical perspective, you would say cause and effect, or a chain reaction, or as you put it, a progression. Either way, we're not all sitting here today talking about this with everyone in our homes because of chance. There is a reason that everything's happening, whether it's cause and effect or rational reason or something that's unseen.
That's right, and I think people are in their day-to-day life. Like I went out and did a live stream at the Green Bay shops this morning. We just got locked down yesterday again after 102 days of no community transmission, and now allegedly because of 4 people who've contracted some illness in South Auckland or whatever. Now they're locking down the entire Auckland region on level 3 and locking down the entire country on level 2. And I got to think to myself, 4 people with the common cold and you're locking the entire country down. If I was a ruthless criminal sociopath, this would all make sense to me. But I'm not, so I'm confused about it, you see? And I think that's the same position that the rest of the public is in right now, is they don't think that ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery is in charge. They just don't think that. And so when these things happen, they're confused by them.
Well, let me give you, I'm sort of in the middle between the left and the right. The virus is for sure real, and for some reason for some people it's extremely deadly. And for some reason some people don't even get it. And some people it's just like a flu. That being said, it really is a bioweapon. It killed a lot of people in China. So naturally, people who are leftists, they get really, really scared and they want to lock everybody up. But when you do that, there's repercussions to that. First of all, you're violating other people's rights. And that's either God-given or country-given by your constitution, or just common sense. Secondly, you create chaos, food shortages, conflicts, emotional issues, fights, civil wars, all these different things, right? So it should be a middle ground. Those people who want risk getting exposed to it, they can be told, hey, A, B, and C. Be at your own peril. And those who want to hide in their homes, stay in their homes, then stay in their homes. That's, when there was a plague, President Trump called this a plague, and so did I months ago, because it has plague qualities, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to get it. But in the past, and even the European times and the Persian times, when there was a plague, they didn't shut off commerce. They didn't shut off everything. They were just cautious. And there was some social distancing, but it wasn't like, oh, you came near me, I'll kill you. It's like it was different. And I think the reaction that a lot of people are having is way extreme. That being said, it did mutate in China. And for some people, they'll get the virus and they'll recover in a day. And then 6 months later, it'll hit them back. They'll have a heart attack or something else. For some people, it'll get it and nothing will happen. It will completely go away. So it really don't know what it is, but I don't agree with anything that's forced. That's my opinion, and it derives from the Constitution of the U.S. per se, that came from the Europeans and also came from the Greeks, and even derived back to Xenophon, which came from Cyrus the Great, the Persian emperor. So we have to look at our history, and never in history did everybody lock up anyone and everyone's sitting in their homes worldwide, and they were like mouse, waiting for the exterminator, hiding for the exterminator. That's kind of how it is. That being said, it doesn't mean it won't mutate and kill a lot of people in the future. And it has something to do with 5G as well. I came out in December saying this was coming, and I said how 5G replicates in your body. A lot of other people started taking my stuff and made a fame for themselves. But what I said was 5G reduces your immunity to everything. Because it's made from machines, not human beings. So if you have a flu or if you have any kind of virus, your cells can be injured. Your cells can be morphed, or there could be cell division. And the radiation can make your nervous system and even your skin receptors out of whack. Thus, you reduce your immunity. And if you have any kind of virus, they'll be more potent to you. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Well,
it's the terrain, really. If you've got a paved road for viruses, they're going to get in, but if you've got a very rough road for them and a full clean bush of an immune system, they ain't. And to a large degree, I think we are surrounded by electronic warfare in terms of our immune system. If it was a deliberate attack on human immunity, the amount of proliferation of cell phones and smartphones and 5G and 4G absolutely everywhere, we are creating the ultimate hosts for any kind of viral weaponry that comes down the track.
Yeah, you're completely correct on that. All these machineries and the 5G smart city grid system, what they call the Great Reset, but that's bollocks. That's just terms they're using. This entire global system that they want to build, it's not for human beings. It's made for machines. It'll give us a future that looks like the Jetsons. That being said, if you have any products that are made in China and your technology, it's from Huawei or the grid system, the parts are from China, is subpar. That means maybe the millimeter waves will be will have a more potent effect on you because of the crappy, in multiple different ways. But that doesn't mean that the U.S. and the European system is safe, because they installed it in many places in Europe, and these aren't fairy tales. Birds were dropping and dying. There were towers that were put up in many places, and birds can sense frequencies. They have certain receptors, and when they were flying around and around these towers, they wanted to the tower now, or they were running away from these towers. It's obvious. So animals have certain sixth senses that we don't have, or most people don't have, and they can sense that this 5G system, the millimeter waves, it's too fast, it's too harsh for their bodies. Thus, my book, I recommend everybody get this book, Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity. If you want the paperback, if it's available in New Zealand by Amazon, you can get it from them. Or you can download it from our website, THEAI organization.com. I have 50 companies in here. One of them is called Festo. Festo is a German company. They're actually re-engineering the wild. That means they're engineering birds, seagulls, even sea animals. And the WIS Institute is another company. They're engineering robo-bees. So it's like the 5G assistant comes in and takes out all the animals, and then you have robots replacing them.
Animal facsimiles.
That's why I put a movie out called AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity. Put that out 4 months ago, and I tweeted it to President Trump, and then within 3 days they released their UFO files. But it's a movie, but it describes what 5G does.
Now, another question. When it comes to the virus and stuff like that, Sweden's approach was very, very different to New Zealand. New Zealand was like, oh, let's lock everything down, let's lock everyone down, let's get into hundreds of billions of dollars in debt into foreign banks that made the money up out of thin air and didn't stand to lose anything, so that we're indebted to them for the rest of every single generation's subsequent lifespan. And they're just like, oh, wow, we got praised by the world. It's just like, oh, you got into so much debt, oh, you destroyed your own economy, oh, the virus is gone. And then, of course, the virus just comes back. And that's assuming it even does, because there is questions about the efficacy of the testing, because coronavirus is a very, very common virus. People have it. It's called the common cold, knowingly, right? But now you've got false positives, where people will be getting 80% false positives on the tests and things of that nature. It seems kind of like this crisis is in our heads, fueled by the media. It's as if the virus itself saw itself on TV and then went, oh my God, look at what I can do. Look, oh my God, like those people who just see themselves on TV for the first time, and then there's this huge ego boost. It's absolutely crazy. And then you have a look at Sweden, and their approach to it was basically the opposite. They just said, all right, if you're old and frail, you're possibly at danger from this, so stay home, please. They didn't close their borders. They didn't shut down their economy. And almost the exact same trends, like the infections go up, then the infections go down, is identical to New Zealand with our heavy-handed debt-based approach. So I do think that this virus, the largest amount of the damage the virus has caused, hasn't been caused by the virus at all. It has been caused by the media hyping up fear, and is caused by the government with their tyrannical scumbaggery. And the statistics seem to reflect that. Now, on from this, the implementation of 5G has a dovetail to it, which is the Chinese social credit system, which the New Zealand Green Party has asked to start implementing here in New Zealand. Now, for those who are unaware, could you explain that social credit system is, and then how it relates to 5G and the global tech control grid?
Yes, it's basically the building blocks in an Orwellian nightmare, that you would be basically under a dictatorship and even eliminated or extincted. I put in my book and my reports to the former director of CIA cover-ups that not only the AI system is creating division, but it's marking human beings as resistant to AI. I have an article and a video coming out with that. With regards to your comments about media hysteria, I put out a video before lockdown. It was called "Coronavirus Creates a Global Digital Fear with AI." I recommend everyone watch that. But to answer your question, Vincent, the social credit system it's quite a simple foundation, but it interconnects everything. So the Chinese have something called WeChat. WeChat has many apps, over 100 apps in there. And there is TikTok. Everyone knows about TikTok. So these are espionage tools. They monitor you, even your heartbeat, even your skin receptors, and even the way your neurons are formed. That being said, they can also control your perceptions and the way you think on the 5G system. With the social credit system, when that rolls in, it basically will tag you, analyze you with facial recognition, voice recognition, and multiple different credit scores based on your psychology and really even your real credit score, and how you treat others and your thinking, what you belong to, on a real score. And in China, this score is like this. If your score is not good enough, well, maybe you're quarantined. You can't go from one city to another. If it's really bad, then you can't have a job. You have to sit home and then somebody comes to train you. And if you're really not doing that good, if you have a faith or something, and put you in camps, they want you to recant and say your God is the Communist Party of China. That's why the Falun Dafa practitioners, the Christians, Tibetans, Uyghurs, they've been put in camps, made to recant. If they don't, they kill for their organs. So that social credit system is promoted in the West in a different way, through soft power. Oh, you do this, everybody is safe. We can find criminals, and we can have more security for our database.
Just a side note: the COVID tracing app that they've just released here in New Zealand, and I'm kind of like thinking about that. Come in and scan and tell us where you've been and what you're doing.
Yeah,
it creeps me out.
Yeah, so it not only will scan your geolocation, where you've been, where you're going, or where you may go, based on your social connections. It will dictate to you where you can or permitted to go based on your social credit score. So so right now, you came close to somebody that had COVID, or maybe you're suspected, or the system says you have it, maybe you don't. Then they'll quarantine you, or maybe send someone to your house, right? And here's the thing. This is all happening to everyone's brains, and even your police, your military, your senators, and your Congress people. You have a different term for them, but your parliament. Those people's biometrics in their brains are controlled. I came up with a concept called biodigital social programming. That the technology that we have these smartphones have proximity sensors. They connect with your electrical field, your nervous system, and your neurons. Thus, whatever a person reads, the hysteria we're talking about, it replicates in their brain and alters their brain chemistry. So if somebody has fear and they're in parliament, or they're a tracer, whatever it is, once they read this, I think everyone should call this a CCP virus, not the COVID virus. The CCP virus, Chinese Communist Party virus. So you won't be called a racist because you're not saying the Chinese people. You're not being against the China because you're not saying China virus. You're saying the CCP virus, and the CCP virus is really the regime's virus. They were negligent, and they were brutal, and they unleashed it to the whole world. Getting back to this narrative, your people who are on these phones and they get their information, the proximity sensors on the 4G network reinforces that information with their electrical field, because the smartphone has electrical field. And there's patent technology we discovered, and I put this in this book, Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity. By this happening, people who have fear, that fear is more reinforced, and that connects to people within the parliament and within doctors, within the military, within the police. They become victims, and then they enforce it on all the people in New Zealand, and the people will fight back. Well, how many people in New Zealand have guns? How many don't?
Well, a lot less now, because the government took them all last year.
Well, they took them all, but what replaces them? Drones, robots, and machines.
Well, we actually had police being armed in order to replace them, and then one of them shot themselves in the bum. Nobody saw that coming.
Interesting. So New Zealand was a beautiful place when I was there in 2007. It was the most, I would say, if there was a concept, I believe in the heavenly place, or different levels, and you could say it's heaven, but it was the most heavenly place I've ever been to. And I've been everywhere except Africa and India, been in all the major continents. But considering what you guys are going through now, I think you had 40 million sheep back then and 4.2 million people in 2007 when I was there. And I suppose you have 45 million sheep now. And
I was about to make some kind of a statistical joke of that. Yeah.
Well, I know what you're going to say, but the 40 million sheep will be added 5 extra million sheep. And that's your population. Your population is becoming your sheep. And maybe, instead of sending, I don't want to make bad jokes, but think about it. This is
the show to do it, by the way.
Well, yeah, New Zealanders will be chopped up by the machines and sent off for meat. So, that's what's happening in a sense. So I don't want to be funny about it, but you have to, everyone has to understand, these parliamentarians, if you're listening in, you have to understand the repercussions of what you're doing, that you're enslaving yourself to the AI system. That here's the thing, the people who are in power generally are very weak, whether it's journalists, whether it's podcasters, not you, but media personalities or people on intel committees or police, because the whole world is infiltrated with socialism. And instead of merit and skill, people were led into positions based on just social ranking, or someone does somebody a favor. So, and then there's plagiarism, right? So anybody gets a PhD there somewhere, but they're usually really incompetent, because back in ancient times, to earn a PhD, you didn't go read books to get a PhD. You actually went and you discovered something, and you did through experience. So everyone's ability should come from experience. And when you have your parliamentarians and your police and other people get in their positions, and they don't come from ancient, like all the experience and wisdom that's passed down for thousands of years, they become weak people. And then everyone becomes sheep, sitting at home on their computers, playing video games, and being controlled by the system, because there'll be virtual reality, augmented reality as well. So everyone's sitting home, and there's a reason for that. I think there's solutions for this. It's very deep to discuss, but I would say, if you have a faith, really repent. If you don't, you can say, ask for forgiveness. Why were we complicit in these camps? But also, the world is what it is. We're not the standard we were 20, 30 years ago. Look at all the child and sex trafficking. Look at all the human trafficking. Look at all the lost promises and broken hearts around the world. It didn't used to be that way. People's world were like oak. There's a movie I saw, I think 10 or 11 years ago, with Goody Jr., I forget his name, but the guy's like, my word is as good as oak. They shake hands, and next day he breaks his word. So in the ancient times, people never broke their word. So the human race is where it is because of itself. That's the problem.
The choices we have made, in other words, have led us to this point. And my producer from American Freedom Radio, Danny Romero, he said this saying that eventually everybody ends up exactly where they deserve to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we deserve to be here. We deserve to be enslaved. We deserve to be lied to on a daily basis because we have allowed it to happen. And once we stop allowing it happening, then we will deserve a different fate. But we haven't come to that point yet where the majority of people, that 51% crucial thing, that's why Area 51 is called what it is, that 51% of people wake up and decide to take personal responsibility for what's going on instead of waiting for a savior, right?
Well, here's the thing. If you look at, we're getting metaphysical and philosophical here, but...
Again, this is the show to do.
Okay. So I wrote in my book, Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity. In my movie, I put out AI, The Plan to Invade Humanity. It's a sci-fi movie, but it's very accurate. I said that in the ancient Persian, Avestan, the Sumerian, the Book of Genesis, the Christian, Torah, the Jewish people, and then going to the Indians, the Bhagavad Gita, and then going to the Far East, even the current book of Falun Dafa, the Zhuan Falun, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and then you go to the Far East. Afterwards, you go remnants in Africa, and then you go to the Hopi Indians in North America. They all have stories of when people's ethics, morality fell to a low point, and the Greeks as well. Don't forget the Greeks. And people's moralities fell, and they didn't believe in a higher power. They didn't believe in God. And then they were extincted. And then there was also the technology was beyond their morality or ethics. And there's not only scriptures and documents for this everywhere in the world. There's relics for this. There's statues depicting this. And geoengineering people with animals. I put in this book that in China we're mixing humans and animals, right? And with chimeras and, putting mouse heads on human bodies and vice versa. All kind of different stuff. So everyone says, well, I'm a communist. I don't believe in God. Well, or someone who has a faith say, well, why is it that we don't see God? Well, if you look at every major faith, it says that we can only awaken or enlighten through faith alone. So that means we are here for a journey. And this entire world maybe is designed that way, like a simulation, for us to be enlightened. If we're shown that there's trillions of universes and we have a spirit in our body and it's not really in our bones or in our skin or in our muscles, but it's in our body and it's real and that goes somewhere, but you can't kill yourself. You really have to have this journey because it's a program, but you have to enlighten to it and become good and assimilate to a certain standard universe. Well, then you would say that kind of makes sense, and then others would say that's bollocks. I don't believe it. But I went to China. I studied with fighting monks, and I've done certain disciplines, and I've actually flown out of my body before. First time I had an experience was the year 2002 that I was awake. And this was proof for me that we have a real spirit. And this is not only in the Eastern philosophies, but if you look at the Christian and the Persian philosophies and the Catholic saints, they all talk about these type of experiences. I've had a lot of similar ones. And one of them is I was sitting down and I flew out of my body and I thought maybe I was sleeping. I can't be. I was flying and it sounded like electricity. So as I was flying, I'm like, well, now let me just check. I look over there, and I'm sitting over there, and the person that's sitting across the room looked exactly like me. And so I'm like, okay, let me double check this. I touch my hand, and there's no skin and there's no bones, but it's like electricity. So I'm like, okay, that's proof for me what I've always believed, that we have a soul or a consciousness or spirit. But I didn't have any bones or skin or anything. It was just a spirit. But I could see, and I could hear, and I could sense things. I decided to fly back into the body, and I almost ran out of air. I put out a couple of videos about this, and I'm all over the place. I'm talking about geopolitics. I have a technology background. I have the Homeland Security background. So it's hard for people to accept everything I say, but I put the whole picture together because I'm trying to explain to whoever wants to listen that every human being is special. And we're all here for a reason, and you shouldn't fear. But we need to take care of what needs to be taken care of. And I think everybody should expose the Chinese Communist Party for the crimes against humanity. We all should repent or look inside and say, why were we complicit in all these camps in China? Millions of people have been killed, millions. And thirdly, we should all wish for a good future for humanity, a future of enlightenment and awakening. That's really, really important. So we got a little metaphysical and spiritual here, and I apologize to your audience if you have difficulty believing what I said, but I'm only doing this in good intentions to give some people hope that don't be afraid. And always have compassion, but have strength, and expose the Chinese Communist Party. It's really important. For me, the Chinese Communist Party is like Saruman and Lord of the Rings. Take that out, it'll solve everything.
One can only hope. But I was one of my listeners talked to me today. They said, "Well, what about the?" It was Robin Westenra actually. Yes, on my Facebook, and I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, which is reading Facebook comments. She said, "What about Luke Snowden's?" Exposures of the massive Five Eyes network and all the surveillance that was going on there long before we've started talking about China and their surveillance intentions. We need to look at our own first and foremost. I mean, China's not part of the Operation Echelon or the Five Eyes network, and yet they're operating under the exact same script. And so to my mind, there is a worldwide surveillance network, and China's merely just one part of that. Could you speak to that issue? But also, I want to speak about the possibilities of vaccination in combination with artificial intelligence. They've got these, what are they called, RNA vaccines or something like that get done into your blood, and we might be talking about real, literal biological transitioning into post-human entities that aren't really necessarily biological anymore. And also about heavy metals and that are in the vaccines and our food and our water, and its reaction with electromagnetic frequencies and wireless radiation, right? Because we live in an electric universe, and the reason why you can open and close your hand like that is not because of some kind of chemical reaction or reactions in your brain. It's electrical. And the entire universe is basically made up of this electronic plasma, and it is giving form to itself, you know? And a while ago I was asked, hey Vinny, do you think the world is flat or round? And I go, well, actually I think it's a holographic fractal creation of collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. But that's my perspective, you know, and I could be wrong.
With regards to the Five Eyes, which is Australia, New Zealand, UK, the US, so on, initially by 2005, just the CIA alone had extracted over 5 billion people's biometrics. That includes your facial and your voice recognition. Chinese government has been doing the same thing. I put in this book, Artificial Intelligence, Danger to Humanity, and articles that I put subsequently months ago. The Chinese government has extracted over almost 7 billion people's biometric systems. And I describe which companies in there use this process to extract your biometric system. Thus, they can use this for creating vaccines. They can use it for creating a digital you. They can use it for surveillance, social credit system, or influence. And there were many breaches in the U.S. that millions of people who are in the intelligence community in the US and even worldwide, their information was stolen by the Chinese Communist Party and their family information who they're connected to. And some of this led to assassinations as well. So this is where China comes in, and even our big tech companies. That being said, our big tech companies like Google, Amazon, and any big tech company, any social media company, they've mined and extracted your information, your facial recognition, your voice recognition, and other biometric data, and your geolocation, your family location. Thus, this all feeds into the beast system. In terms of the vaccination, it's also in my book in different ways. Yes, they're looking to put different nanotechnology in there, and even things that are not human. Thus, it's not just about altering your genes. It's about putting particles inside of you that is not derived from humans, but something else. And there is an interrelation between this and 5G. It would take a very long time to describe it. But I put out a video that a platform that's watching right now took down 5 months ago. And I described that once this virus comes in, and with these vaccines and with this frequency, that people will be taken out left and right. And they took it down. And the thing is, what we've done is on behalf of not just conservatives, but people on the left and these big tech companies, because we wanted to save lives. But I found extinction codes for the majority of the human race in stages, and everything came back to China. So that's what I put, and I in certain ways, a lot of ways, I was able to speed the timeline of the Trump administration against the Chinese Communist Party, and to expose and take the Chinese Communist Party on. Eventually, New Zealand will decouple from China, and everyone needs to help that. Every person in New Zealand, you have a vow. You have to defend your country. You have to expose the Chinese Communist Party, and everyone needs to support the Trump administration. That's what I put in this first book. On the bottom, I said, on the digital one, you'll see that why the world needs to support the Trump administration against China's regime. If you look at my books, it's like I had a time machine that explained everything you see happened thus far and you'll see in the future. But I wrote them because the future can be altered. It can be changed. It depends on us. But even me, I'm here. I've spent a year attacking communist-style leftist thought, while conservatives have been stealing and plagiarizing our work into hundreds of thousands instead of giving this credit. And none of them could solve the problems in stages. So think about it. So the problem is not just left. It's also people on the conservative side. When you steal, when you plagiarize, the universe you can't see is so vast. Trillions of universes, more parallel dimensions. Everybody thinks what they do is not seen. But if there is a facial recognition with some technology, why not something else that sees everybody doing everything they do? So that's sort of my question to you in multiple different ways. I went to different layers of it. But I really think the world's still in danger, and it's not just from a virus. It's not just from AI enslavement. It's from chaos, famines, conflicts, and wars. As I put, if you go on their website, theaiorganization.com, or follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, but especially on Twitter, Cyrus A. Parsa 1, and at the AI Organization, you'll see a list of tweets going back to September 7th. And everything that's come out thus far, even the riots, I called it before it happened. In the day before Floyd died, I did a tweet, with a video tweet. So warning that the digital war is going to go to the streets. So it's like we had a time machine, or I had a time machine, and we do have intel that goes globally, but I do have certain things that the intelligence community does not have, and we're able to accomplish certain things. And I did put a lawsuit up on December 16th, 2019, and amended it on February. And that was start with endanger all the world's citizens. That was my last attempt, because the media wouldn't put me on to warn or provide solution before all this stuff happened, and content creators and YouTubers wouldn't put me on their channel, and they kept on plagiarizing, and everything you see here today. And we had everything planned out to warn everybody and provide solutions. So, is it a false flag? So here's the thing. Conservatives think this was all planned by liberals. It was planned by the Chinese Communist Party, and to influence who? The World Health Organization and WTO, and sack them, like putting siege to cities through soft power. Then through their soft power Confucius institutes, and then through their asset takeover and buying the lands in your country, especially New Zealand, and your businesses, they subsequently take over, as they're doing business with China, and take over the world bit by bit on the BRI. BRI is Belt and Road Initiative, One Belt, One Road. That's the article is about. So everything is like almost like a special design. A real virus comes out, but all these things comes along with it. And this all comes from the Chinese Communist Party as it connects with their big tech. And exactly what my book stated in synopsis, August 24, 2019, and on October 20th, 2019. And in my lawsuit on December 16th, and on February 23rd, that went global. Over 1 billion people saw it. So I put a lot of effort, and so did our company. And we did soften the hit on the world's people in multiple ways. But still, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So if anyone wants to support us, you want to donate or get us on channels like you, I want to thank you for having me on your show. But like I said, we should not have fear, but we should expose the Chinese Communist Party, and it is a real virus. So some people, it could affect in a really bad way. So I'm not saying don't be cautious. Some people should be cautious.
Yeah, indeed. Ooh, we seem to be having a little bit of feedback on that side. Can you turn your speakers down just a little bit?
Yes.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
How's that?
Have you got any headphones there? Oh, wait, there we go. It's fine. Okay. Well, I was thinking about God for legal reasons. In the Constitution, it talks about rights instilled by God. And the reason why they did that is for legal reasons. For example, if legally God gave you those rights, how can any human legally take them away? They can't. Okay? That's the whole idea why I believe in God, is specifically for legal purposes like that, because otherwise you have godless communists who think that they're God and that they can take away any right you have. They can take away your life, they can take away your children, they can take away your job, they can take away your free speech, that kind of thing. And that's why I believe in God for legal purposes. Now, the question is, though, are we dealing with a massive infiltration of the Chinese Communist Party into both sides of virtually every house in the world? Because Chinese communist money is flowing in to both the Labour Party and the National Party, who are our two big allegedly left and right groups, but they seem to be following the exact same script, the exact same agenda. They both have Agenda 21 as their environment policy, which incidentally influences their everything policies, because environment is everything surrounding you, right? And when it comes to the implementation worldwide of Agenda 21, I'm starting to see CCP being the centre model. And in fact, is China the model of the global elite for the world? And did they not just suddenly get all this power and all this technology and all of this ability and all this expertise just by sheer accident? Or were the elites of this world attempting to do a test case in China, perfect it, and then roll it out across the world once the testing had been done?
It's a combination of what you said, but they stole everything. They collaborate with the elites. Elites were complicit, and they did business with China. But most importantly, the Chinese Communist Party and that used Chinese to social engineer your elites and your parliamentarians. And they took, they have spies and influencers that have infiltrated every one of their media in New Zealand and all around. So I did a tweet to President Trump recently. I think it was my pinned tweet. I did one on sex tapes too. They got 300-something thousand views and got millions in China. And the premise is that a lot of your politicians and business people, there are sex tapes of them. And I'm not going to go very deep into it, but they've been infiltrated because when they go to visit China, they do things there. Okay? And through infiltration, through influence, through bribery, to giving money, debt traps, your politicians are owned. Your media are owned. So why isn't your media reporting this stuff? Because they're being controlled or influenced by the Chinese Communist Party. And what they do is very smart. They read your history, and they attach to racial and gender issues. And they know the left is very, that's important for them, the racial and gender issues. And so what they do is they social engineer and trick them. By doing this, they touch their emotional needs with regards to these 2 or 3 issues, and they control them. They get into their network, and they buy parts of the companies, or they make friends with them. So it was hard for the FBI to catch on in the U.S. It took them 10 years to catch on. Then they put out reports recently. Yeah, Chinese will make friends with you, and they're on your school or your business or your media for 10 years, and they're your best friend. Within a second, they turn on you, and they've always been a spy. And the embassy, so the Houston was taken out because they were supporting the riots, the BLM, and they were caught red-handed. And then that has to do with my tweet as well. So if you look at my tweet to President Trump and William Barr, next thing you know, 2 days later, Pompeo and William Barr make statements, and then they make these statements, and then the embassy gets hit, all these different things. So, but the goal of the Chinese Communist Party, they don't think like us Westerners. They think long term. They have 20-year plans, 50-year plans, and their plan is this agenda. Their plan is to control the world, to dominate the world, and that's what they're doing. But the only thing that stands against them at the moment, if God doesn't step in, like to show miracles and everyone sees an actual figure, is the U.S. government under the Trump administration. They've been going head on against it. So your parliamentarians are endangering all your families by doing any communication, collaboration, and business with China, and all your media members. And there aren't that many of them. You know that? There's 5 million people in New Zealand. How many people come to your country? 1,000? Not even that. So those little small people are literally endangering 5 million people in your country. Have a talk with them and explain to them nicely and show them the evidence. That's what needs to be done. And you said you believe in God, and so do I. I have common sense that there's trillions of universes. And yes, I do believe in God, but I believe in free will. Thus, we don't see things because of free will. But yes, to answer your question, Vincent, or to agree with you, it is the Chinese Communist Party. And I think they will lose, and I really think everybody will have a good future. But in the interim, billions of lives are at stake. In the interim, it's very, very important. Everybody must expose the Chinese Communist Party and get him out of your country. Get him out of New Zealand. And I'm not saying Chinese in general, okay, but the Chinese Communist Party. But I put out a tweet about a general in New Zealand that has bought so many acres. He is connected to the dictator in China that put tens of millions in death camps, okay? And what's he doing in New Zealand? Buying these properties, these acres.
Think about it. And he's a wartime general or genocide general. And he's in your country. That was a tweet I put out. And then, so a lot of Chinese that come to your country, I don't mean like the religious persecuted, but they come from having a lot of money, the big cliques, and their families or they're the ones they're connected to. They're involved with concentration camps if they're involved with the Communist Party. Thus, your government is being complicit in death camps by allowing this in a relationship. Your government is complicit, and they need to change really fast after what happened, during World War II. There is something called the Complicity Clause, Article 3 of the Genocide Convention. Look up my lawsuit.
So that's all the time we've got for today, and I do believe that there are a lot more intricacies involved here in actually getting them out. But I think the main thing that we need to focus on right now as a people, as New Zealanders, and even as one global citizenship, really, because if there's a new world order being set up that's going to turn us into global slaves, I think that independent resistance of all peoples everywhere, whether or not they be in the same country, whether or not they speak the same language, they still have the same goal: freedom, liberty, the right to not have to do what somebody tells you to do. And how do we actually exfiltrate ourselves from this? I think that the main goal here is simply to get the awareness up. If the majority of the public were aware of this communist infiltration to even the tiniest degree, we would have change tomorrow. And so that means that you do need to brave the ridicule, ladies and gentlemen. First, the truth will be ridiculed. Then it will be violently opposed before being accepted as self-evidence. Cyrus, thank you so much for giving us your time today. Cyrus A. Parsa, the AIorganization.com is his website. And just before we go here, this show is kind of like a bathtub. It doesn't work very well without a plug. So if you have any wares or services and ways of being supported, please go right ahead.
Thank you for having me on. Listen.
No. I mean, go ahead. Plug any of your books or any of your stuff that you've got.
Everybody, please get this book, Artificial Intelligence Agents of Humanity. Go to the website. It's there. It's really, really important. If this was seen before, a lot of issues would have been solved. Still, I like the awareness of this to be spread because there's data in here and it shows all the players, all the 50 companies. So do that. Follow me on Twitter, Cyrus A. Parsa 1. Retweet me and help spread the awareness of our videos. We have over 25 videos on the AI Organization YouTube channel. You can get to that from our website, theAIorganization.com. Also, join me on IG. Same thing, Cyrus A. Parsa 1. I'll do lives once in a while. And if you'd like to donate, because we've put a lot of international effort out there, please do so. And thank you for New Zealand for having me in your country for about 3 weeks in 2007. And I'll never forget that. Really good people, decent people, and a beautiful country. So let's keep that country alive.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Cyrus, for your time. The AIorganization.com is his website, ladies and gentlemen. Go and check that out. Thank you, Cyrus.
Thank you.
All right, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching the Vinny Eastwood Show. Would like to spend a moment here just thanking everybody for their contributions to the show over the years as well. But also, let's have a look for once at my little flapper over here. She's very, very cute. This is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen. Just 10 seconds of cute baby.
Just so cute, but the sweet. Oh, my baby.
We are getting that through, right? It's okay. It is working. All right. It's just so cute.
Oh, my baby. Daddy loves you. Oh, you're so cute.
Yeah, there we go, folks. That's what I'm talking about, and I just love my baby so much because she's just so cute. And I do want to encourage everybody, if you can, to donate to the Vinny Eastwood Show, so that we can keep my baby in good health and low stress levels. I think to a large degree, and I understand as well how much of a difficult time people are having out there financially with the lockdowns and things of that nature, guys. So I value every single cent that you guys are sending in right now. It's been pretty overwhelming, actually. Now, I do want to do one thing that I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting to be grateful, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say thanks to everybody who's been in the chat rooms over this time. Evan is asking what's his name. It's Cyrus A, Parsa, P-A-R-S-A. And W924, thank you very much for moderating in there. I think we had a couple of other people moderating as well. We've got a bunch of our mods on the main channel here. Marley Pumpkin, Michelle Cannon Free, Rika the Hopeful Voluntarist, and Tanel88. Thank you guys all for helping me out. And I believe we had Richard Bonner and Amos77 as well. Guys, thank you so much for all of your help there. And with that being said, in the links in the show notes, in the description there are the ability to donate via PayPal. If you want to send us a one-off PayPal donation, the email is guerrillamedia77@gmail.com. That's guerrillamedia77@gmail.com if you do want to send us a donation there. And if you want to donate through KiwiBank, PayPal or Patreon, there are links in the description, and the homepage of the VinnyEastwoodShow.com has little drop-down bars on the PayPal buttons as well. So if you want to donate weekly or monthly a certain amount, whether it be $5, $10, you want to donate $1,000, ladies and gentlemen, into the KiwiBank, that'd be really lovely. We are working really, really hard as we can to bring in some of the greatest international talent and advisors to give the New Zealand Public Party, Advance New Zealand, the kind of tools in our belt so that we can wage this war against scumbaggery, ladies and gentlemen. And I am deeply, deeply grateful that for you guys tuning in. It fills me full of hope that there are still real men and real women out there who will not be slaves, who will speak the truth, even if their voice trembles, who will do what is right because it is the right thing to do. Thank you very much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist.